Hi, this is Kim Shepard again. We're going to continue on with video 2C. We're picking up where we left off with graphing categorical variables. So here you see this is a split bar plot, and we're going to look at the distribution of how satisfied you are with your financial status. And we're looking at across two genders. So the first set of information is for the females in the data set, and the second set is for the males. And based on this graph, we'd like to know if we can conclude if financial satisfaction and gender are independent or dependent. If you look at the distributions of satisfaction within each gender, they look very similar. Almost the same percentage of females are satisfied as with the males, and then same thing with the other two categories. So since the distributions look almost identical, there might be a slight variation here with a couple of the categories, but not much. We would say that gender and satisfaction with financial situation are independent. The distributions look almost identical for the two variables here. So to answer this question, the female distribution is very close to the male distribution, so therefore the variables are independent. We'll just say satisfaction. This is satisfaction with financial situation. Are independent. Okay, with this same graph, on the next slide, we're going to add up the percentages for each gender and see what we get. Since we're looking at the distribution by gender, we'll see that if we were to stack all three of these bars up, they should total 100%. So we'll estimate this on the next slide. So for the females, if you look at the first category, the percentage that are satisfied, it's over 25%, slightly under 30%. I'm going to estimate this to be about 28%. In the second category, that they're more or less satisfied, that seems to be pretty even with 40%. And then the last category, not satisfied at all, seems to be just a bit over 30. We'll say that's about 32%. And if we were to sum up 28% plus 40% plus 32%, that adds up to 100% of the females are represented in this part of the graph. And we can do something similar with the males. The first bar looks to be a little bit above this 28%. We'll mark that at maybe 29%. And in the second category, again, I think that one goes up just slightly above the female, so maybe this is 41%. And then this looks to be at about 30%, right on the mark. And again, if you add up the three percentages, they'll add up to 100%. So we're looking at the distribution of satisfaction by gender with this graph. Okay, so we've looked at bar charts. Pie charts were another option for categorical data. And so if you have a categorical variable, you can choose to create a bar plot or a pie chart. However, you'll notice that pie charts don't work very well if you have a lot of categories. They just end up looking really busy and hard to read. So as long as there aren't too many categories, a pie chart is a nice display of a categorical variable. This is a pie chart for the highest level of high school math. And you see this one's rather busy. There's an awful lot of categories here. And so this graph is not extremely helpful in understanding the distribution. A bar plot or a table which we'll look at in lesson 3, would probably be a better choice for the variable highest level of math completed in high school. So there's too many categories here with this one. Probably better off with a bar plot. Just in analyzing the pie chart, what percentage of respondents have never had probability or statistics? The students that have had probability or statistics, we can look at the legend or right here. They're represented by that small piece of pie. 1.82% of the students have had probability or statistics. So the percentage that have never had, if we take 100%, get rid of those that have had probability or statistics. I should make sure I label these as percentages. The other 98.18% have never had probability or statistics. All right. Next one. Okay, here we have side-by-side pie charts, and you'll notice now the number of categories, there's only 3 categories in these, and so this looks much better in the form of a pie chart than the last one did. But here we have 2 pie charts. This pie chart is for people that were born in this country, and this pie chart's for people that were, not born in this country. Born in this country, no. This one's for people born in this country. And we're looking at the distribution of race by where you were born. And so for this one, we'd like to know, are race and birth country dependent, or are they independent? And we could have, again, put this in the form of a split bar plot like we looked at before. But you'll notice this time, the distributions look very different depending on whether you were not born in this country or you were born in this country. If you were not born in this country, the percentage of respondents that are white was 49%, whereas if you were born in this country, the percentage of respondents was 82.29%, so quite a difference here. So since the distributions look very different depending on where you were born, we would say that race and birth country are dependent. They are not independent. And so the reason why is because these distributions here look very different. And I pointed out one category. You could look at all of them. None of the categories for race look similar for the 2 pie charts at all. Okay, to wrap this up, what do you make? Do you make a bar plot or a pie chart, depending on what kind of data you have? If you have categorical data, you can create either one, but you'll find that sometimes one graph ends up looking better than the other. So a lot of times we'll make both of them, make a pie chart and a bar plot, and pick the one that tells the best story of the data. That one pie chart with several categories was just too busy. In that case, a bar plot would have been better. Sometimes a pie chart is nice because a nice visual display of how all the different parts make up the whole. So because both graphs say the same thing, you don't actually have to produce both. You might want to look at both to decide which one you like best, which tells the best story. But then if you're producing something to turn in, we'll produce just one graph to turn in. We'll see this in class when you're using StatCrunch. You'll want to play with some of the options. There's a lot of options in StatCrunch to make your graphs a little bit more savvy. We'll always want to make sure we label our graphs with a nice title. And we'll practice the different things that we can do to change the graphs to make them sort of more pleasing to the eye in StatCrunch. I believe that's the end of this video.